First of all, I want to a couple disclaimers. I'm not an expert in history. I've never really studied history. I'm basically a student of history, an amateur student of history, as I'm sure many of you are. Uh, and a lot of the stuff that I'm going to talk about, I'm just barely scratching the surface. There's so many other resources out there available to you. They come, they go. You can find something on the internet today. Tomorrow it'll be gone. You have to evaluate it yourself. Is it a good source of information, primary source of information, or is it just a bunch of quack science or politically correct whatever? And this first slide here doesn't have anything to do really so much with this presentation, but it kind of got me thinking about researching and ensuring that we're striving for historical accuracy when we're doing interpretive stuff. We're going to events like this, talking to the public or whatever. And while the event will remain nameless, this was an event a couple years ago that we were at, and there's some people that had their genteel sensibilities offended because we had white guys that had theater paint on and they were half naked. And this, I can assure you, because the one guy there that you don't see his face, that's my son, and he researches stuff to the nth degree. And he networks with Native Americans to make sure that what he's doing, their pigment color, stuff like that, are historically accurate. This guy here is my grandson, but he's got Native American blood in him from his mom's side. And then Chris here is also part Native American. So it wasn't just white guys. These guys were really trying to portray Native Americans at this event, and they were trying to follow the research and stuff like that and be accurate in it, but yet the people had their sensibilities offended. And one of the things they're seeing more and more at a lot of these living history events, we're so much more worried about politically correctness than we are about the realities of history. And again, I think we're missing something if we're not striving for historical accuracy. Why it matters and how do we achieve it? Does it really matter if we're historically accurate? Well, it depends on where you're coming from. If you're just going out there with your kids camping in the woods in a park on a riverbank like this out here, whatever, it probably doesn't matter if you're historically accurate. You're going to strive for maybe trying to do whatever you're doing the way they did back then, if that's what you're trying to teach your kids and stuff like that. But it really doesn't matter too much that you've got period correct clothing, you've got a period correct weapon, you're doing period correct cooking, and your tent's period correct and all that kind of stuff. But I sincerely believe if we're out there talking to the public, trying to educate future generations, we've got a sacred obligation to try to be historically accurate as possible to show that we're showing the way things were and the realities of that. And again, we're never going to be 100%. No matter what, you're going to have to fudge on some of the things. You know, like we've got a campsite out here. We've got a modern cooler covered up with some canvas so it doesn't look like a modern cooler. So you do some things like that. But as much as possible, you need, if at all possible, strive for historical accuracy. Again, are we just having fun for our own gratification or trying to educate others? That's the question you need to ask yourself. And does primary source information matter? And again, I think there is. There's tons of primary source information out there. So much more so, I think, nowadays than there was even 10, 15, 20 years ago. You know, when a lot of us first got into this stuff when we were younger, that you really you might go to your local library and find one or two documents on any given topic. But if you wanted to really delve into it, you were hard pressed. Now you can find some really, really good stuff that's been well researched on the internet that will really delve you down into really good primary source information. Again, how many of you have been at events? You've seen both these extremes there, almost, if you would, of people trying to portray history at a living history event. Again, does it matter? Again, depending on what you're trying to do. But if you're really striving for historical accuracy, you don't want to look like well, I keep hitting the wrong button here. Excuse my French, but you don't want to look like this chrome-plated pimp there. You want to look more like the guy over here on the right side. I think that's more historically accurate if you really get into it. And I'm going to get into some of the sources of some really good source information. The first one here is the Library of the Western Fur Trade Historical Source Documents, the AMM, mountainmen.org. And there's just a wealth of information available on their website there. There's somewhere around over 50 journals that they have of some of the original mountain men, their trips west and stuff like that, like William Ashley and all the whole list of the other ones. Their journals are there online that you can read the actual documents. They've all been digitized. They've got links to a lot of other stuff. They promote historical accuracy. They promote primary source information. And as that stuff's out there, you don't have to be a member of the AMM to access that. You can go to that site. Anybody can access the stuff. You can read this stuff. And one of the things that I'll give a plug for that organization. It's a great organization. They challenge you to become a member of the organization. You have to really delve down and do a lot of research yourself. You've got to be able to have a set of clothing that you hand sew and stuff like that. It's not that you're going to go down and buy at the J.C. Penney's or the Dollar General store type stuff. They strive for historical accuracy in their camps and stuff like that, and they challenge you to really do some research and really portray what you're trying to portray to educate other people. And so it's a great organization. I'm not a member of it. My son is. But again, I can't say enough good stuff about what they're trying to do. One of the really nice things is about, well, I got a good pole nut in the other hand, I guess. And that the logo came back there, the address. Well, we'll work around it. Don't worry about it. Again, you've got that in that paper that I handed out. You've got the links. I gave you the hyperlinks to all this stuff here. But one of the nice things that they have is they have all these fur trade journals. One of the individuals took every one of the available fur trade journals and they've digitized it into one big giant document. And you online can go search for anything. Like I wanted to know a little bit about the mountain men and coffee. So I typed in coffee and put it into that search engine. And all the different journals where they mention coffee, you can see that stuff and then read about it. So you get, again, a lot of really good information there available to you that's historically accurate. Another really good source of information is a lot of the academic institutions. The University of Nebraska has a lot of stuff on the Lewis and Clark journals. And again, it's not just the journals, but they've got books and articles, images and maps, audio and video, all kinds of stuff. You could spend literally weeks researching stuff there through their website there. And one of the neat things that I try to stress to people to do, rather than sit there in the evening on watching mindless stuff on television, you can get on your computer, or even if you've got a smart TV, you can go on your TV to some sites like this and then follow some of those links to that stuff. And you can be literally entertained all night watching some of those videos and stuff like that, and yet you're it's good information. And so it's a resource that's available to you. Another good resource that I just can't say enough good stuff about is the 18th Century Material Culture Resource Center. Any of you utilize their stuff at all? It's all available online. You can read it online. If you want to download any of their documents, and they've got dozens and dozens and dozens of documents focused on topic subject matter experts, or subject matter, primary source information. And they've got these documents that have got a lot of really good photographs in them, a lot of good descriptive stuff. And if you want to download it, you can actually, if you're a member of Scrib, you can download it in the Scrib. They're the ones that host these documents. You can download them, but you can read them all online for free. To be a member, you've got to pay to be a member of Scrib to be able to download the stuff. But you can actually read it all online. So there's, again, just a wealth of stuff. Like, as an example, if you want to know about death on the frontier, death in colonial times and stuff like that, they don't have one, but they've got 3 documents talking about the various aspects of death and funerals and burying and that sort of stuff. Well, I think I'm messing up here. Maybe, I don't know. Okay, but then again, it's a great resource that I just recently found a year and a half, 2 years ago. Now, again, one of the big problems with so much of this stuff and why I try to download everything that I can. If I get my hands on something, I will download it and save it to a hard drive. I've got a 2 terabyte hard drive that I've almost got full of resource reference material because it'll be here today. But one of the things I was reading just within the last couple of weeks was that the 18th Century Material Culture Resource Center, they're having financial problems. And likely as not, 6 months from now, 5 years from now, they're not going to be there, and all these documents are going to go away. Quite often you can find that stuff back if you go to the Internet Archive. Is another resource where there's a foundation or something crawls the internet and takes snapshots of a lot of this information, and they'll digitize it, save it, and so you go back to a certain date and look at this website to see what was there, and you can find a lot of that stuff back. Some of it you can, some of it you can't. But again, you just have to know that it's there and you can look for it. Another really good source for a lot of good information, and you got to be careful. There's a lot of really good information out there in social media and blogs. There's a lot of junk information also out there. And so you've just got to take it with a grain of salt, but you can find some real pearls of information out there on some of these websites. Especially, I know I'm not on Instagram, but I'm on Facebook a lot. And some of these websites, they'll have over across the top, they got the about and post and stuff like that. They'll have another section where that says files, and you can go click on that. And there's a lot of files that people that are members of that Facebook group or social media group, whatever, they'll upload and they'll reside there on that website. So as long as that website or that social media page stays active, that stuff's available to download from the files there. And I found a lot of really good stuff there, and I've tried to wherever I can, if I can upload something of value there that they don't have there, I'll upload stuff to it. And again, people just have to take it with a grain of salt. There's a lot of good stuff. There's some junk stuff there. Now, one of the other things I want to say about, I hate Facebook. I don't know about you, but I hate it because, first of all, it's wonky. Sometimes you can find stuff, sometimes you can't. Even the pages that you have yourself, sometimes you can't find your posts, things like that. I like blogs. You can go into Google if you're sign up for Google, which is free. You can create a blog, and you can create just almost the equivalent of a Facebook page. You can put posts there, you can put links to files there, you can put photographs there, stuff like that. I've got several blogs that I maintain myself just to support living history stuff. And I like it because it's always going to be the same. If you got that URL or that address of that blog, you can go to that, and it's always going to be there. And all the stuff's archived. You can go all the way back to day one to see the stuff there. You can have links to files, stuff like that. I also stick a lot of stuff into the cloud drive, the Google Cloud Drive, and then put links to that and make them publicly available so that people can go and actually download their own copies of PDFs of different things. And so there's, again, that's a resource that I challenge you, if you really get involved in living history, to, contribute, make a difference, put something out there, create something that's going to serve future generations well, or the people that you're networking with, stuff like that. A couple other things I just mentioned on there, like I support, my son's a bag maker, and I really supported a lot of other bag makers. So I've got a bag maker's blog on the internet, and if anybody's interested in that, you can always contact me. And I've got sewing techniques and all the different aspects of making bags and dealing with leather and pictures of historical bags and stuff like that. All that's available there to teach the future generations. If they want to learn something, you might as well learn from the proper historically accurate primary source. And so that's where I put some of that stuff. I've got another blog on photography. I network with a lot of contemporary long rifle artists, and then one of the challenges a lot of these younger people have is, how do you promote your art? How do you take good photographs of it? And some of them really, it's not their fault, but they just don't have a clue how to take good photographs. So there's a lot of great information out there, and so I put it into a blog on photographing stuff. So that's another damn thing. Another great resource is the Coalition of Historical Trekkers. Again, they've got contact information. There's a network there. If you're a member of that, it costs to belong to it. On their website, they're the www They've got a little bit of stuff there. They've got a photo gallery, things like that. They've got a members only section, but if you're a member and you go to that members only section, there's not a lot of stuff there. But if you go to the Facebook page of the Coalition of Historical Records, there's a lot of good stuff there. You can go down to the post where people post stuff, and they've got one of those sections like I talked before at the top. In addition to posts, they've got a file section, and just different people have uploaded some files. I know I myself have put 2 or 3 different files there that would hopefully be helpful to other people that are involved with that organization. One of the other values of organizations like this, just like the AMM, again, the value of that peer-to-peer, networking with other people. If you've got a question, you can contact other members there. They have regional meetings. They have a national meeting every year, and it's great to go to that and see some of the stuff there, get some ideas for your own interpretive efforts, things like that. One of the other things that I've done, and again, I'm in the process of trying to convert this to a blog, but right now I have a Facebook page, River that does grand canoes. It's basically River the Big Canoes. And back when in 2019, I got involved with the keelboat muskrat when I came down the Missouri River, recreating Ashley's Return. And so I created this page on Missouri River history. And it's just amazing. If you look, and again, it's there the day you can find it. Tomorrow you look for it, you'll never find it again. But whenever I find something on Missouri River history, I stick it on my Facebook page there with links to it for share with everybody else. And there's just a wealth of information. I bet I've got probably 100 different posts out there over the last couple of years with links to some really good information. A lot of good photographs, a lot of good primary source information on Missouri River history and the fur trade and everything related to that. So again, it's just something that you got the link there if you want to go to it, look at it, go back to the previous post. You can go all the way back to day 1 and see this stuff. Another really good blog, Frontier Life Primary Source blog. And they've got a lot of really focused information and really good, and again, it's primary source, frontierlifenet.blog. And you can just see there's just a couple of things there, Mountain Man's Possible Bags, primary sources, just stuff like that. So again, you don't have to just rely on what you see when you come to an event like this, if somebody's got hanging out there on their trade blanket. You can go to some of this primary source information and find some really good stuff. Again, a lot of these things have some really good images there. Another really good blog, any of you familiar with the Woods Runner Diary? That's a really good blog, but it hasn't been very active the last year or two. But if you go back to 5, 6, 10 years, they've had 300-400 posts a year on that. And there's a lot of good stuff with diagrams, pictures, how-to instructions, all kinds of stuff on basically colonial life, living on the frontier, that sort of stuff. Just a lot of good things. And again, a lot of it you can download. It's just, you can spend really, literally probably a year of evenings just going back to all their different posts and reading some of that stuff. Just a wealth of information there. And again, I worry about how long this site's going to be up because they haven't been very active the last couple of years. And that's usually a sign that somebody's lost interest. Maybe they've passed away, whatever. I don't know who runs that blog. But it's stuff that's there now. And if you want that stuff, you better maybe get a screen capture of it, download a copy of a PDF of it, whatever. Another good source of primary information is to look back at some of the art and artists for inspiration. And again, people like Alfred Jacob Miller. He was a painter pretty much contemporary to the time. So if you want to look at what a hunting bag looked like hanging on a fur trapper, if you could find one of his paintings maybe, that's probably going to be pretty accurate what that looked like. And if you're trying to emulate somebody, be an interpreter of some persona, you'd find some really good information there probably. But there's a ton of other artists out there, both historically and the current artists now, that are great sources of some really good information. And again, I'm just scratching the surface. There's Bodmer, Bingham, Russell Remington, Albert Bierstadt, There's all kinds of other historical images, woodcuts, things like that that are in various old newspapers, things like that. I know we found a thing a couple of years ago out of the New York Times from like 18 something, or the New York Post. I don't remember which paper it was, but it was a woodcut of a fur trapper setting his traps on the river in the upper reaches of the Missouri. And so it's just some really great stuff. Yeah, I'm doing okay on time. Okay, a couple of the contemporary artists, and I can't say enough about some of these guys. I personally know both David Wright and Kyle Carroll. And one of the things that they do, they strive to the nth degree for historical accuracy in their painting. They go visit their sites that they're painting before they ever start the painting. If they can, they'll have live models actually model the stuff. And again, they try to strive to the nth degree for historical accuracy. And they've got pages on Facebook, or they got on the web. Actually, they usually have Facebook pages, but they also have a web page of their gallery stuff or whatever. And a lot of their stuff is there that you can go ahead and look at. Get a full screen blow-ups of it to look at it. Take a screen capture of it if you want to look at it more, whatever. But just some great sources of some really good, pretty good information on historical accurate detail. If you're going to try to emulate somebody. A couple of the other ones, John Buxton, Randy Steele, another ones. And again, I've got them listed there. You go look at their stuff. They've got literally hundreds and hundreds of images there that they've taken. I think it's Randy Steele, I believe, is the one that he goes to. He takes photographs and then he somehow digitizes them to look like paintings and stuff like that. And so again, he's going to the events, the Revolutionary War events, things like that, and then digitizes those images. So you'd never in a lifetime travel all the places that he's got photographs of events, of people doing stuff. But just really good detail. And you just, again, look at the faces of those kids here. Do they look like they're hungry and scared? Absolutely. National Park Service. That's another really good resource out there that has some really good historical handbooks, history series. You can go to that website there. Some of the stuff's kind of hard to find, but if you go to that website there and then start going from there to some of their other links and stuff like that, they've really got some detailed stuff. And like, again, I've been doing research on Kings Mountain for a couple of years now because it interests me, the whole story of Kings Mountain and even what led up to that and the whole thing. But there's a great document there that the National Park Service has on Kings Mountain. I just found that a couple of weeks ago. And so it's amazing. You can't just look one time and think you found it. You've got to go back and you've got to look again and again and again. And you never know. It's like finding a needle in a haystack. All of a sudden that gem will pop out there and you say, wow, that is great information. I never saw that before. And so like the National Park Service, you can download all these documents. They've got them in downloadable PDF format. So you can download them and save them. So again, I think, again, if you're really into historical accuracy and research, one of your best investments in addition to computer is having you a good external hard drive. And then if you can save stuff in a PDF format, portable document format, that's going to be good probably for out in the next 20, 40 years, whatever. It's been around forever. And I'll talk about it in a little bit, but one of the really good tools is the full version of Adobe Acrobat because it'll allow you to go in and get a website, capture that whole website. If you type in the URL of the basic website, it'll download that and open it up as a PDF thing, and then it'll show the different links there, and you can click on those various links and append that. It's dead. I'll just keep on going if that's okay, because you got the handout. There you go. Now let's see. No, it's yeah. That Adobe Acrobat, you can append those links to that document, so you can have literally a document. I've got documents that are 3,000 pages long because I copied everything from that website, and they've just got tons of stuff there. And so again, it'll be there today, but it won't be there tomorrow. And so that's one of the tricks that you can do to get that. And if any of you got questions, you got comments, if you have any experience with any of these things yourself or whatever, don't hesitate to raise your hand or speak up. This is really informal.
The only thing I would say is I learned this the hard way. I'm not a big computer guy. When you back up, go get a solid state backup drive. My backup drive was thousands of documents with one with a cookie, and I dropped it, and they can't repair it. Everything is gone.
Yeah.
So when Paul's talking about backing up, for those of us that are kind of computer illiterate like me, get a solid state drive.
Yeah, you're absolutely right, and they're getting cheaper all the time. Right now I've got a 2 terabyte solid state drive that I back everything up to, and it's very quick, and it's impervious to most drops and this and that type of stuff. So absolutely. Another good resource to have is, again, these various associations. The AMM, which I talked about before, the Coalition of Historical Trekkers, the CLA. I'm a member of this Contemporary Long Rifle Association. And again, it costs a little bit of money to belong, but the peer-to-peer networking that you get, that you can go to their annual show and visit with other people that have the same passion as you do, seeing some really good, accurate, historically accurate art related to the contemporary long rifle era, guns, bags, knives, quill work, pottery, you name it. That's a great organization out there supporting that. And then the National Muzzleloading Rifle Association. They're the one, I can't thank them enough for supporting the Hawken Classic here the last 4 years. They've put a lot into that. They've got a lot of other stuff. They've got some really good classes online. Classes at like Friendship where they have their annual shoot set or biannual shoot set and stuff like that. But they also have how-to articles on their website. If you're a member, you can get access to all their back issues, where they've got a lot of how-to stuff in their back issues and stuff like that. So that's just a really, really good organization. One of their Muzzle Blast is their publication, and Jerry is sitting in the back of the room there. I can't say good stuff about Lucky's trekking tips. He's been writing for them for about 2 years now after he got done with the Ashley's Return. It's just some really good tips there. And if you got a chance, whenever he presents after a while on their journey on horseback, you'll see his passion for this and the kind of stuff that he can share with you. But there's just some great articles there in the National Muzzle Blast there. So again, I just can't stress enough. And again, I'm just scratching the surface of these organizations. There's dozens and dozens of other good organizations out there, likewise having valuable information. You just have to pick and choose, and like anything, they're getting more and more expensive, and money's getting tighter and tighter, so you just have to, again, kind of pick and choose. Some of them will share this stuff free online. Some of them you've got to be a member to access some of the good stuff. But again, most of them, while they have a web page with members-only stuff, and to get to some of the good stuff, you've got to be a members-only. Most of them will have a Facebook page that you can go to, and the stuff there, you don't have to be a member. You can just be a like it or follow it or whatever and access the stuff. And there's a lot of really good stuff gets posted there, ongoing all the time. Museums and state archives. Again, there's a lot of really good museums out there. One of the trends, again, that I see that I don't like, and hopefully it's going to turn around, is a lot of these museums and living history sites, they're trying to go away from interpreters there and some of this stuff. They're worried about politically correctness. They're getting rid of some of their Native American stuff because it wasn't painted by a Native American and nonsense like that. And it's just a real tragedy because we're losing a lot of really good historical information by then getting rid of some of this stuff and not even letting the public be exposed to it. Again, if we're just going to let our children be exposed to stuff that's politically correct, we're going to have some problems down the road, I think. And that's just my personal opinion. I don't mean to get up here and be a politician and preach from my soapbox, but again, so you just have to pick and choose. And again, if you find some museums that they're doing the right thing, I encourage you to support them however you can. Go visit them, pay the admission fee, donate to them. Some of them have memberships, things like that, like the boathouse here. You can be a member here. This is a private organization that has this here. It's not run by the government or anything like that. There's some great stuff that they're doing, as you can see just looking around. Museum of the Mountain Man, Museum of the Fur Trade, and then state, regional, and local museums. There's just a wealth of local museums out there with some really good stuff. You just have to look for it. Somebody was telling me about, I think at the St. Charles Museum, I believe it was St. Charles Museum, they got a Revolutionary War display on right now. That's going to be on only till the end of the month. And it's probably some really good stuff there. And again, you just have to look for this stuff. I know a couple of years ago, I took a trip with a couple of my friends. We went down old Route 66. We started here in Missouri and went all the way to New Mexico. And every town we stopped at, almost every one of them towns had some kind of a museum to something or another. Like we stopped at one there. It was on barbed wire and the cow industry and stuff like that back in the 1800s and stuff like that. Just fascinating stuff they had in that museum. But that stuff's out there. You just have to find it.
Hey, Paul.
Yeah.
I just want to say thank you for mentioning the Museum of the Mountain Man, Pinedale, Wyoming. I'm on the board there, and I'll tell you, 2 days ago, we were standing in the snow teaching the 4th grade kids about the history of the mountain men, but with no punches pulled. They don't do government funding or anything. They don't kowtow to political correctness.
Yeah.
Again, I can definitely recommend that. I volunteer. I'm on the board. And also, we put out an annual Rocky Mountain Fur Trade Journal, which we take 8 or 10 of the top research papers each year and put out in a nice format. Really great source of information. So.
Yeah, I was looking at the topics of that most recent journal or whatever on the web page a couple of days ago, and just fascinating, just the variety of stuff that they publish on. Yeah. And one of the things, again, I would encourage you as parents, grandparents, encourage your schools to get the kids out, not to just the run-of-the-mill politically correct places, but take them to museums and sites like this here where they can actually see some really accurate history. And making sure that we educate our younger generation so that they're not just, skewed in their outlook on stuff and just only seeing one side of things. They need to see the stark realities. They have naked Indians, if you would. In addition to these museums and state archives, there's also a lot of good local historical societies. Like one of the sponsors out here of the fire starting fees is the Audrain County Historical Society out of Mexico, Missouri. And I can't say enough good stuff about that historical society. They put on a major event every fall where they try to expose people to a variety of historical things there at that event in their city. But they're doing a lot of other great stuff like supporting this event here. And so, there's a lot of other local historical societies. They publish journals, they publish newsletters. There's state historical societies you can be a member of. There's all kinds of opportunities out there to get involved. Again, not just learn from them, but get involved, pay back a little bit, give a little bit of yourself to help perpetuate that for future generations. Here's a couple more of the sites that I put, and again, it should be in your handout there. Some of the social media stuff, some of the websites, Soteria in the Woods, Let's Pay in Illinois. This second one there, I bet there's, I don't know, maybe 40, 50 different documents that they have there, again, in that file section that you can download. All kinds of aspects of historical living history. Just Frontier Trash, Buffalo Trace, and again, it just goes on. And again, I'm just scratching the surface. It seems like every other day I'm finding something new. I just found something new the other day on it was actually a website, but it was revolutionarywar.com or something about revolutionarywar.com, where again, it was a link to a whole bunch of primary source information about the Revolutionary War that you can go to with photographs, articles, things like that. Academia research sites. There's a lot of good things out there. I talked about like Scrib. They've got tons of documents out there. If you're a paid member there, you can actually search and download a lot of that stuff. JSTOR. academia. Some of these, like I'm a member of academia, and I just applied to get access to that as being a historical researcher. And they let me on that site there to get access to stuff and download it. Normally, you've got to be a professor at a university or have some other academia tie, but you can say you're an independent historical researcher. You're doing research for interpretive stuff like that. Some of these sites will let you on them and let you access stuff. So again, you just have to try. Otherwise, it can be pretty expensive. Like I just dropped my thing to Scrib because it was they're wanting like I don't know $30 a month. Now I had a free a year. First year was like almost nothing. So the last year I've been getting stuff and downloading stuff, but now it's going to cost a lot of money. So it's more than I can afford. I'm just going to let it go. But again, and these again, I'm just scratching the surface. There's probably others out there. Other reliable sources, again, historical sites, just like this site here. Every state has dozens and dozens of historical sites you can get to. They've got displays. A lot of them have interpreters there that you can talk to and get ideas from, things like that. YouTube documentaries, again, it's you got to let the buyer beware. There's a lot of good stuff out there on YouTube. There's a lot of junk. Again, you can find it today. You won't be able to find it tomorrow. But again, there's tools you can use to download YouTube videos, to save them as an MP4 format that you can use later on to look at things like that. Movies. One of the things I say about movies, 99% of the time they're not historically accurate. They're there for one thing, to entertain people, to make money. And so they're going to cut corners. They're going to, again, not be historically accurate. So you need to take them all with a grain of salt on the movies. Reenactments, living history events. Again, some of them are very good. Some of them are kind of loose. You just have to pick and choose what you look at as far as finding your inspiration for living history, historical accuracy. Books. There's a lot of good books out there. Again, and one of the things that I've found, you can spend a lot of money buying new books, but you can go to some of these used book sites and buy used books for almost nothing. I've got used books for $2, $3. You might have to pay another $2, $3 shipping, but originally those books cost maybe $100 or more, some of them. And so there's a lot of good books out there. Mentors, peer reviews. Again, if you can get involved with an organization, go to a reenactment, whatever, start networking with some people, developing some friendship. People have bent over backwards helping you with your historical research and offer suggestions and ideas. One of the things I want to cover on just briefly is a lot of people raise the issue, well, what about copyright educational you're stealing people's stuff, it's copyrighted, you can't do that, you can't make a copy of that, stuff like that. I've been involved in teaching in the public through my previous professional careers, teaching law enforcement and stuff like that. And a lot of stuff I was able to do under the fair use rule of copyright law, where you can make limited use of another author's work to support research and for education. So you copy that stuff. If you're not making it to sell the document itself, type of thing, you can copy that. You can use that. Again, the fact that the material being in the public domain also may help with the argument that something may be used to support research. And I always say, if in doubt, contact the author. And I've had pretty good luck. 99% of the times, if I want to use something and I explain to them what I'm using it for, they'll let me take copies of the photographs, put it in a PowerPoint, things like that. So don't be afraid to ask people to use their copyright material. They'll usually let you use it without having to pay for it. Again, I talked about some of the tools, the Adobe and PDF readers. That full version of Adobe Acrobat, it's a really good tool to use if you want to capture stuff. Some of these other free ones, you can use them as a reader. Sometimes you can do stuff with them otherwise. But Adobe itself, again, if you use it as the home version, if you get it for educational purposes or whatever, sometimes you can get it at a reduced fee for $100, a little bit more than that, and not too bad. Screen capture. Most computers, I use Windows operating system, but almost all of them have a built-in screen capture. Another good one that I like is MW Snap. It's just a real small software program. It's free, where you can download it, and then you can have it hotkeys at any time you're on your computer there. Have it load when you start it up, and you just control Alt Shift, and it will pop it up, and then you can capture whatever you want to capture with it, and then cut and paste that in either a JPEG format or a PHP format, whatever, to save it. And then bookmarking good sites. Again, capturing is better. Here's another freeware tool if you don't have Adobe Acrobat. There's that HTTP Tools PDF24. You can that tool will capture a lot of websites for you, and put them in a PDF format that then you can download. And so there's again, just scratching the surface. There's a ton of good tools out there if you're trying to capture information and preserve it for future research, future reading, things like that. All right, I'm kind of ran out of stuff to talk about, but I'll entertain questions if you've got comments, stuff like that. What you found yourself as far as historical accurate research, what you're doing, anything you want to share.
Using digital versions of newspapers.
Digital versions of what?
Digital versions, the digital effort of taking newspapers and digitizing it, putting in search engines. I don't know if you spoke about that earlier. If you had any experience with using government providing search engines to look at digital archives?
No, I really haven't. You want to get up and talk about that just for a second, or?
Well, I just know from personal experience that some of the stuff that I've been reading, particularly on John Johnson, I went back to, I just started searching, and there is government, I don't have the website, which is a way you can put in text strings, names, and it'll hit on newspaper articles, and you can, so if you're doing historical research on a particular individual, you might be able to reconstruct where they are, where they were, what they did, going through all newspapers.
Yeah, and that goes along the same lines of that as genealogy stuff, genealogy research, the same type of thing. You spend a lot of time doing research and linking to this, linking to that. One of the things I found about researching newspaper stuff, like I know, like when the Ashley's returned, there was a lot of interviews done by various news media as they came down the river, and I wanted to look at that stuff and preserve that so I could go to the website. Most of those news organizations will not allow you to download their stuff. You can contact them, ask them for permission. Sometimes they'll give it to you, sometimes they won't. One of the things I have on my computer is I've got a screen capture. It'll capture videos, streaming videos, both the video and the audio of it, and I'll save that. And again, I'm using the fair use copyright thing where I'm using it for educational purposes. I'm not selling it, whatever. So I'm using that to capture some of those newspaper or those news media broadcasts of that Ashley's return and other things like that, and then being able to save that as an MP4 works pretty good. Anything else? Okay, well you've got that web page there. One of the last things I'll talk about. And you don't have to take one of these if you don't want to. A couple of years ago on Facebook, again, I follow a lot of pages on historical living history stuff, and somebody started a web page or a Facebook page for historical accurate research for reenactments and stuff like that. And it lasted for about 6 months. There was a couple really good posts there, and all of a sudden somebody lost interest, whoever put that page up, and it just died. So I went ahead and I started my own a page on historically accurate research, and I'm putting links there to some really good stuff, just like the stuff that I'm talking about here. Eventually, I'll have every one of these sites there featured on that Facebook page. But if anybody wants that, it's a members only. You've got to apply. You go to the page and you apply for access to it. And I ask you two questions: why do you want access to this, and what are you doing to support living history? And then that way you keep all the nuts off putting all stuff about porn and this and that on your web page. But I've got that going, and hopefully we can keep that going. If other people could continue to submit things to that, one thing or another, once you remember that, you can post there. And it'd really be great to start creating a network not only just here in Missouri, but across the country, of people that really have a passion for historically accurate history, and we can support each other and give each other ideas and tips and stuff like that. So I encourage you, if any of you have an interest in that, hearing from you to help keep this going. Again, pay this forward. Let's support the future generations so that we're not just letting it die with us. And so with that, if you got any question, come up and talk to me afterwards. Thank you for your time.
Certainly, thank you.